Alright, welcome everyone to the very first edition, the pilot episode, as a matter of fact, of In Between Days, a podcast all about days of our lives, where each week, for the time being, we may do it on a daily basis in the future, but each week we're going to go over what happened in the world of Salem, and of course we are recording live to air from atop the Penthouse Grill, the rarely mentioned Penthouse Grill in the glorious fictional town of Salem, and we're just basically going to be winging it. This is our first time around the bend, but I will just start off by introducing myself. My name is Jason, and I have been watching Days of Our Lives on and off since, well, pretty much since I was in the womb, which I could probably verify since I am a third generation Days of Our Lives watcher, and it all started off with my grandmother, who watched from the very first pilot episode of Days of Our Lives, and she passed that tradition on to many members of my family, including myself, and it's been quite the ride, as most of you listening to this would know. And over the years, I've watched on and off. We've all probably taken our gaps in watching, but I have watched on and off, and I have early memories of Days of Our Lives, of all sorts of things. Roman Brady, the original Roman Brady, being thrown off the cliff of death by Stefano Demira, and of course the cruise of deception, all the immaculate, extravagant weddings. A few come to mind. Jack and Jennifer's crazy rodeo wedding, and Bo and Carly's Greek wedding, that was fairly extravagant, and Steve and Kayla's wedding, which I believe was on, around, or near a boat. So a lot of old school weddings that I remember watching as a kid, as well as all the adventure that comes with Days of Our Lives. Some of my favorite old school storylines would have to include Stockholm, so that was fantastic. Once again, the Cruise of Deception I mentioned. The whole Stockholm thing, probably one of my favorites. As a wee little one, watching Days of Our Lives, probably a lot more into that stuff than the kissy kissy at the time. The heroes in action. John, I think it was John when he was still Roman. So those of you that don't watch Days of Our Lives, if you're listening at this point, is where it starts to get confusing. Stuff like that. John used to think that he was Roman, and despite fingerprinting and DNA that lasted for a long time, of course, when he originally came to town as, ironically, John Black, his fingerprints were burnt, as I remember it. Anyways, I would love to know what some of your favorite old school storylines and characters and all of that are, and I'm going to tell you in a little while how you can contact me, how you can get a hold of me, how you can participate and write in and share your ideas, because I want to eventually get this to be a communal thing. Believe it or not, we're kind of just winging it right now, kind of just chitty-chatting about everything Days of Our Lives and seeing where it all goes. So I don't have all of the social media that I am going to hook up necessarily in place, but that's okay, because like I said, this is just the pilot episode. But if anybody wants to let me know their favorite of all time storylines, anything like that, because we're going to talk about some of that stuff as well. We're not just going to run down the show each and every week or each and every day, because I think there's a lot of more layers that we can look at than just that, including sharing some of our old memories together. And like I said, there's a lot of characters that may not be on Canvas that might be your favorites. Some of them have a little bit of a cult following, characters like Eugene and Calliope. Also, who would you like to see coming back? Who would you like to see return to Canvas? I personally would like to see the character of Stephanie Johnson return to Canvas. I would like to see somebody playing Andrew Donovan, and perhaps Sydney. Sydney, of course, the daughter of E.J. Elvis Jr. and Demira and Sammy Brady. So, they've brought, obviously, the character of Allie Horton, who is the twin of Sydney. Although that's complicated too, as we all know, because as it stands, anyways, you never really know in Salem. But Sydney's parents, of course, are Sammy and EJ. But Allie's parents are Sammy and Lucas, and of course they were in the womb together, and basically twins, but maybe not quite. How does that work? Fraternal twins, separate eggs, but are they still twins if they have different fathers? Only in television, only in TV land, only in television land, ladies and gentlemen. Just a little bit about me. I'm not used to talking this much without music behind me. I do a little bit of DJ stuff, so this is all. Haven't done this in a long time, where I just have to chat, and obviously I put a little bit of music there at the start, and hopefully that doesn't get flagged as copyright music. But I thought, ironically, that's a song called In Between Days by The Cure, and I just thought I would make that into a very small, short loop and just use a couple of seconds of it, and I think that complies with all of the international laws. So hopefully we can use that song, because it has a nice little drum beat and a little help us maybe a little bit with our branding without breaking any rules. And I thought it was only fitting, because that song is called In Between Days, and that's kind of what we're doing here, and that's kind of what I want to call the podcast, is in between days, in between episodes of days, or in between for the most part, or for now it would be in between weeks of days. We'll just kind of probably do it at the tail end, and if this thing really takes off, we can talk about it every day. Now we're coming up to about 8 and some odd minutes, so maybe we should get into the week that was. And I debated a lot, like, where do we start? This show is in I believe season 56, and just got a 2-year renewal, which, by the way, inspired me to finally take this whole podcast idea and take it that step forward, because we're going to be talking about this amazing show for at least another 2 years, and that's great news, because usually it's renewed for 1 year at a time. But I think Days is safe, and I don't want to get too into the weeds with this, but with the addition of NBC Peacock, I believe that at least in a perfect world, we could see old episodes of Days added on to that, and hopefully Days stays on traditional television for a very long time to come. But there also in the future will obviously be the options of NBC Peacock and things like that to give it a whole new life, or sustain it in new and different ways. They've been experimenting with that a little bit when they did Chad and Abby in Paris, and a couple of other internet specific storylines, which they really need to make more available to us in Canada. But I won't go too into the weeds with that, because most of that was only available to, I think, the national audience in the United States, but not the international Days of Our Lives audience. And of course, Days of Our Lives has a very international audience. I'm coming to you live. I know I said I was atop the Penthouse Grill in Salem, but I'm actually in Toronto. I guess I can disclose that. So I am Canadian myself, so I am in the Canadian contingent of all the international fans and family that is Days of Our Lives. And we are going to take a brief pause, and then we're going to talk about the week that was in Days of Our Lives. I also want to talk a little bit first, just in between right now, about some of the comings and goings. Obviously, in the recent last couple of weeks, maybe the last month now, as I'm recording this, because it has been a while. Obviously, we've got Sammy returning. We had Sarah leave. We had a couple of days. I won't get too into the weeds with this either until we actually talk about the week, but we had Jordan come back for a couple of episodes. Was that necessary? Wasn't necessarily a bad thing. We're not gonna hate on some of the decisions made, even when we might not disagree with them, even when we may not love certain storylines or certain things going on. We're gonna try to look at more the positive, and we're gonna be honest about what's not working or what I don't particularly like, but not in a not in a bashing way. I'm gonna try very hard to restrain myself from taking any shots at any of the writing or certainly anybody specific or by name. The show gets very campy at times, but that's kind of always been the case. The only time I ever really had to, from a personal standpoint, boycott the show was I really wasn't, and I'm just gonna preface this by saying it's not because I'm any kind of religious fanatic of any sort, but I really just could not suspend my disbelief when they were doing the whole Marlena is possessed by the devil thing. So that was one time I kind of checked out intentionally. Other times I kind of checked out because I was traveling or not near a television or doing other things in my life, living other phases of my life. But for the most part, I've been a lifetime viewer and completely checked into Days of Our Lives, and that's kind of why I'm doing this thing, because I realized I'm a super fan and maybe I should reach out to you all. Let me know. I'm saying let me know, but I'm going to have to figure out at the end how to tack on some reach me here for now information, and then once this becomes a weekly thing, I'm definitely going to need maybe a Twitter, maybe a Twatter, maybe an Instagram, but definitely obviously an email. We're going to see how that all goes, but of course EJ is coming back too. The character of EJ is coming back to Days of Our Lives, and he will be played by, I'm sorry because I'm completely going to botch this last name, and I'm usually really good at pronouncing names, but it's an Australian actor by the name of Dan Fayurigal. So that's the best I can do right now. And of course, the original EJ will not be coming back. We've all kind of known that for a long time, so we won't get deep into the... I keep saying that this whole podcast. We won't get deep into the weeds on that one. But anyways, James Scott not coming back. Has not been back since 2014. And, was originally dead, but that doesn't mean anything. In Salem, as most of you out there will know, you can easily come back from the dead. So we're going to be seeing the new EJ at some point. Sierra has left, and Sierra will be coming back. I think a lot of people know that. And, Jacques is staying around for a while, but I do know that there's already been one recast, which is her daughter. That's I'm just trying to remember the real life name of her daughter. It's actually the real life name that I can remember. I believe her daughter's name in real life is Precious Way. The character's name is Chanel, and I believe Chanel has already been recast because Precious Way has another gig, and I don't quite remember off the cuff what that is, but we don't really need to worry too much about that. Anyways, so those are some of the people that are definitely newer on Canvas. Of course, we still have Jan around for a while. We'll talk about that. And the very interesting Dr. Snyder, who has been causing all types of trouble in Salem. And here's the thing, I don't know much about any of the other soaps, so I do have a few memories of an old soap called Another World, because my grandmother also watched Another World. And there was basically I watched As the World Turns for a cup of coffee for one storyline, and I was kind of into it for some reason. Maybe just under 20 years ago I watched it for a cup of coffee, but Days have been watching for this is going to age me, but, since I was in the womb, we'll just say, so many decades. Here's the other thing, before we get into the meat and potatoes, because I was saying I don't particularly know the other soaps. I'm not that familiar. You hear some stuff just because of the award shows. You hear about the other shows, and sometimes back in the day in the grocery store, you'd be looking at Soap Opera Digest, and you'd see something about Days, and there'd obviously be the other shows talked about in there, and same as today in the here and now. If you look up some news about whatever soap you watch, you'll probably see some stuff about the other soaps, just because that's the nature of how it all works. So on that note, I have discovered through a little bit of research on the internet, and I don't want to bury my sources either. I don't want to not cite my sources, but this is basically reported on all of the sites, so it'd be hard to credit the specific information to anybody specific. You can find it on Wikipedia, you can find it on anywhere. But Dr. Snyder is being played by Michael Lowry, who has apparently played Jake Martin on All My Children for several years, 1996 until 2001. And he was Les Sweeney, apparently, on As the World Turns from 2004 until 2005. And Dr. Hillman, a different doctor. He does look like a shady doctor. On the Bold and the Beautiful. I never was crazy about that name for a show. The Bold and the Beautiful. In 2006, Ross Rayburn on One Life to Live from 2009 until 2010. See, if they would have, if Days of Our Lives, and I don't know anything about One Life to Live, but if Days of Our Lives and One Life to Live were to switch show names, it would not work, because most of us know that in Salem you have more than one life to live. It used to be mainly Stefano and Marlena that had at least 9 lives, but at this point pretty much everyone in Salem has had more than one life to live. I'd just like to point that out. So Ross Rayburn on One Life to Live. That was his character from 2009 until 2010. So another brief stint there. And he's had recurring roles on 3 shows I've never heard of: Nashville, Powers, and Tainted Dreams. And that's not a shot, I've just never heard of those shows. We needed some villains. You know, with no Stefano, it leaves a big hole, and Victor hasn't been around too much, and he's not much of a... He doesn't cause too much trouble these days. He's not a super villain anymore by any means. He's kind of been, you know, tamed a bit by Maggie. And where's Maggie these days? I don't know the answer to that. But her daughter Sarah is Gone, gone for now. And I think that's basically it with the comings and goings. So we're going to try to keep up with that as well. Cameron Johnson was back for a little bit playing Theo, of course. Cameron Johnson was back for a little bit playing Theo. And there's been a new Claire, a much better Claire in my opinion, for quite a while. We got to see... this is going back a little bit, but we got to see Kyle Lauder back, the original Brady, who now plays Rex, and who used to be married in real life to Ari Zucker, who plays Nicole. So if you can keep up with all of that, especially if you don't watch the show, then I give you all sorts of points for that. And I believe they, pronouns pal, I believe that Ari Zucker and Kyle Lauder have a child by the name of Isabella, and of course we all know that there's that Brady's mother on the show was named Isabella, who died, I believe, of cancer, and then John Black and Marlena had a child and named it Isabella as well, and that's who we know today as Belle. But interesting stuff that they would, you know, meet on the show, much like Doug and Julie did. They are a real life couple. I'd be interested to find out some of the standings of some of the other couples that met on the show, because we all know that JJ and Paige were dating for a time in real life. But I think it's time to get to the meat and potatoes because we're just kind of venturing off into all these little side things, and I think that's the beauty of it. And hopefully I can get you guys to participate a little bit, and we can go into all sorts of we can take all sorts of side paths and just talk about the history of the DeMiras, or the time another actor played Bo Brady. Like, there's all sorts of stuff we can talk about from the past. You know, characters that we miss, characters that we don't miss, characters that, you know, all sorts of stuff. Favorite storylines and just random memories, stuff like that. I got a lot of stuff that we can plan. Also, I don't want to make this too long, because I figure people might not, well, you might have some other stuff to do in your day, so we don't want to make this too long. I mean, we've already got 5 hours of Days of Our Lives to watch, but it's nice. I just think it's, you know, nice. We'll have a cup of coffee or two, and we'll discuss Days of Our Lives. So when we come back in just a moment, I said how many minutes ago that we were going to take a pause? We are going to take that pause, and then we're going to talk about, we're going to recap the week and just talk about some opinions, and we may or may not get to some days-related news, and we may not do that this time, but we may do that in the future. Just you know, if there's cast members that are on the show currently or have been on the show that are up to some neat and interesting stuff, or they've got other side things going on, we may talk about that. You know, there's Freddie. Why does his last name escape me right now? Freddie, who played Sonny on the show, has got a podcast with his wife, and then there's you know, Jen Lilly, who's often up to some stuff, either recording songs or doing some of her work with foster parenting. So we may want to talk about some of that stuff. from time to time, or some of the traveling stuff. Probably not these days, but some of the traveling stuff that Teo Pengelis often posts. And also, there may be another show or two out there that does cover Days of Our Lives, and we're certainly open to hearing from them and kind of collaborating or not with any of those fine folks at some point or another. But when we come back, we're going to talk about the week that was in Days of Our Lives, because we can only start where we can start, and we can't go all the way back to 1965, 63, whatever it was. I can't quite remember the year the days started, but it was a ways back, so we can't just start talking about everything from episode 1 all the way to now, but we will talk about some old stuff, some old episodes, some old storylines, and old characters in a very jovial and nostalgic way in the future. I think we're not going to do much of that beyond what we already have for this pilot show, but I think each and every show may talk a little bit about some older stuff, because it's just the natural thing to do with a show that's been on the air for so long. So when we come back, our final segment is going to be, and this won't necessarily be the way we do it each and every time, but this being a pilot episode and all, we're definitely winging it more than we probably will in the future. But when we come back, we are going to recap very quickly the week that was in Days of Our Lives. Alrighty, so welcome back, everybody, to In Between Days, the In Between Days podcast. I guess I haven't really decided, it being a pilot episode of all, if I'm going to say welcome back to In Between Days or welcome back to the In Between Days podcast. I think it's going to be more like welcome back to In Between Days, a podcast about Days of Our Lives. So we are back, and we're gonna recap the show. And of course, Monday was a holiday here in Canada, but it was not a holiday in the United States. So there was a Monday episode. I do not think that next Monday, this Monday coming up, there's going to be a Days of Our Lives episode, because that, of course, will be Memorial Day in the United States. So it'll be a short week in Salem. But if we're going back to Monday, this is when Ben sees his sister Jordan. So we have, I think her real name is, that's Chriselle Strauss. I may not be pronouncing that correctly. Disclaimer. But anyways, Jordan, not coming back as a ghost, not coming back from the dead. She represents Ben's guilty conscience, and she taunts Belle about, the fact that he kissed Claire, which happened the week before. So I'm not going to really get too into that, but obviously they had a moment there, and now Jordan is telling him, oh, you really loved Sierra so much that you went to Claire that quickly. But Ben was trying to process the fact that he had just been served divorce papers by his wife that cannot remember who he is, and ran off to a different country with her ex-boyfriend Theo, who doesn't act much like Theo anymore. Do we want to talk a lot about that? Because that kind of happened before this week, but the new actor playing Theo, I don't put the blame onto him, but it seems that the character of Theo used to... I'm not saying the character of Theo does not have autism anymore, but they certainly have forgotten about the autism, all but forgotten about the autism, and he just doesn't act. I don't think that Theo, the Theo that I remember, the character-driven Theo that I remember, as opposed to the plot-driven Theo. I don't think that the character-driven Theo Carver that I remember would selfishly kind of manipulate the situation to keep Sierra away from Ben. And I think that he didn't do too much manipulating, but he didn't stop anything. I do see his perspective. He never knew Ben when Ben was quote-unquote good, so he may just feel like he's being protective of Sierra, but my point is the Theo that we knew and loved did have a certain layer of this autism to his character, and I don't believe he's behaving in the way I don't believe Theo is currently I don't believe that Theo is currently behaving the way that Theo would behave, but I'm not putting that on the actor. I'm putting that on the way that it was written. So I don't know if you guys would agree or not, but much like Philip's supposed to have a missing leg, I think that's just been kind of forgotten and painted over, and it is what it is. It is what it is. But Philip grew back his leg, and Theo seems not to quite be the Theo that we all know and love anymore. What else happened on Monday? Because that's way before Monday. I just went into a whole sidebar there. So before we get too lengthy, because we still got the whole week to go through, once again we were covering the fact that Jordan appeared in Ben's mind as a representation of his guilty conscience. What else went on? So Jordan is very much dead. She just appeared in that form. Steve and Kayla, were told by Tripp that Dr. Snyder was messing around with him, and they weren't too happy about that. Meanwhile, Dr. Snyder is causing other trouble in Salem, forcing Gwen to be a drug mule. And so is she going to keep doing that, or is she going to go to somebody for help? Chad kind of came in and overheard things, but apparently Gwen was able to cover that up for the time being. On Tuesday, I think it was, Xander paid a visit to Sammy and said the money that EJ wired him in order to spare her life and Lucas's life had been reversed back out of his account, and Lucas attacked him with a bat, which was kind of funny, and hurt his arm. So all of that went on. Xander didn't kill anybody, and I don't think he would, to be honest, but he's looking for something. So I think later in the week he goes to Nicole and asks for a job, but then we're getting ahead of ourselves. I don't know what you guys all thought of that, but that happened this week as well. So I don't know what's going on there, but EJ has taken the money back. So it could be very close to when EJ arrives in Salem. And my question is, the last time I really recall Sammy and or Lucas talking about EJ, he was still very much like incapacitated and couldn't do things for himself. So I know that he's been theoretically making progress with his physical ailments and whatever else, but is he going to come back to Salem at full strength, able to walk, undead? Because he was dead at some point. You know, he came back to life. He's one of those Dr. Rolf, resurrected from the dead. Much like well, half the characters on the show, Jack, Ava, whoever else you can think of. Ben is frantically searching for Claire as well, because she has been kidnapped by Jan Spears, and as a last resort, she leaves a message on Ben's phone, a recording of what's going on, and he puts two and two together. Brady is looking for Chloe, Philip is looking for Chloe, and those things kind of converge later in the week. I don't want to get ahead, but I'm just thinking that Sean gives a laptop to Philip in the police station, which is very bizarre, to try to go over the footage and see where Kristen's car is and where Chloe might be, and he sees Jan and he sees Claire get into that car, so they start to put things together later in the week. So I guess this will be a little bit out of order. What actually did happen, I think, on the Tuesday is Belle was trying to bargain with Jan about things, but that didn't really work out. Wednesday we had Wednesday, I think, was when Brady started, questioning Kristen, goes to see Kristen, and eventually breaks up with Kristen. Xander is demanding... Yeah, we talked about that. That Xander wants a job from Nicole. Otherwise, he's going to reveal that they slept together and destroy her marriage to Eric. Not that they have much of one. Yeah, Jan finds Chloe in the trunk, but doesn't really care too much. Sammy and Rafe goes and sees Sammy and Lucas and starts asking them questions, and then Sammy asks Rafe if he has talked to Xander and questioned him. Honestly, today is only Thursday, but I'm gonna try to talk about Thursday and Friday and not post this until after Friday, because normally I think what we're gonna do is we're gonna watch the show Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and record this on the weekend and post it on a regular day, either Saturday or Sunday, and we're gonna do it like that. And if there's a demand for it, we might, as I mentioned, just do shorter videos daily, but we'll see. Anyways, let's just get through Thursday and Friday, because I want to talk a little bit about that and see what you guys think. So Thursday, Jake's going to apparently receive some information about Kate's medical condition, and of course he's in a little bit of a bind where he confessed that Gabby is the one that he truly wants to be with. Apparently he thought that Kate broke up with him, but it was really Kristen in a mask. And we won't talk too much about that, at least not today, but that was one too many masks, and that was when things were just getting out of hand and kind of ridiculous. Kristen thinks that she's going to get a plea deal of some sort, but that doesn't seem like it has any chance of happening. And it's really a shame, because she is a really good actress, but I think they've basically painted her into a corner, and I don't know if she's gonna continue to be on the show. But I would think you would have to have her off canvas now for some time. Ava and Gabby are about to, get into more of a war. I don't know how much that has to do with just Rafe or other things, but yeah, Ava and Gabby are not going to be getting along, so that should be interesting. And as far as Friday goes, Rafe and Ava are going to get closer. I don't know. Obviously, something's going to go down with Gabby and Jake and Kate. I don't think that Jake is going to not feel I don't want to say responsible or obligated, but I don't think that Jake is going to just, if Kate is having some serious medical issues in the hospital, I think he's going to want to be there for Kate, regardless of his feelings for Gabby. Allie is going to have a little bit of a talk with her mom, Sammy, on Friday, who wants to know whatever she can find out regarding Nicole. There are also some rumors that Gwen and Xander might be getting together, and that would be interesting. Are they going to get together romantically? Are they going to get together to wind some kind of a scheme together? I don't know, because in terms of this pilot episode, this is Thursday, so it's Thursday morning. I won't have seen Days of Our Lives for Thursday and Friday until Thursday and Friday. So we're doing this a little bit differently than we will in the future. And amazingly enough, we've made it to 41 minutes just talking about Days of Our Lives. So again, also on Monday, May 31st, a reminder that there will be no Days of Our Lives. So no Days of Our Lives on Memorial Day. So don't tune in on Memorial Day. You're not going to find a show. And I don't think we're going to talk about spoilers this time, because I'm not sure how people feel about talking about spoilers. I don't want to... I think if we do talk about spoilers in the future, we'll do them right at the end of the show, so that people that don't like talking about spoilers or anything like that, they can still participate and enjoy the entire show, or most of the show. And if they don't want to discuss or hear the spoilers, then we can do them right at the end of the show. And, like right now, I could just talk about a few spoilers, but I don't think that I'm gonna do that. I think I'm gonna just wrap things up and leave things at around the 45-minute mark at the most. So I think we're gonna wrap things up, and on that note, I've completely winged this, but I want to say congratulations to everybody at Days of Our Lives, all the staff there, not just the actors that are on screen, but everybody that, everybody behind the cameras and everybody on the writing team, regardless of if I think every single portion of the writing is good or not. Everybody that put work into keeping Days of Our Lives going since the beginning, I want to congratulate all of you for the extension. So we didn't get a 1-year extension, we got a 2-year extension, and Days of Our Lives is basically safe for 2 years, and hopefully the ratings will not just stay steady but improve. I believe they need to improve a little bit. Usually I think Days of Our Lives is rated the number 4 soap out of the 4 soaps in terms of ratings. And we won't talk too much about ratings today. Maybe on another day we'll have a conversation about ratings and how that system is a bit flawed, but it is what it is. And I just want to... I don't want to leave on a negative note anyhow. So let's leave on a very positive note that the show we all know and love has been renewed for... 2 more seasons. And on that note, do we want to say anything else at the end? I'm not sure where I'm going to post this. So what we'll have to do for this time is I will have to add in later, or however I do it, how to contact me. But for this being the pilot episode and all, wherever it ends up being posted, it may be in more than one place. What you could please do for me is just comment underneath, give it any likes or however, because honestly, this is the pilot episode. I don't know if it's going to end up seeing the light of day. I don't know if it's going to end up on YouTube. I don't know if it's going to end up on SoundCloud, but we're certainly going to try to do something with it. And I hope that everybody enjoyed this first episode and had a good time talking about Days of Our Lives, and I can't wait to see where this all goes, and I will see you all next time, because like I said, we want to leave this at 45 minutes or less.